Welcome to Seeking Ishvara. We're going to talk about today that all is mental. It's something that I learned a long time ago from the Hermetica, which is the ancient Egyptian esoteric tradition. And then also in the Emerald Tablets, which is Atlantean. But, in my videos, there's a lot of, like call the mind down into the body. And the mind is that voice in your head that constantly speaks to you and says all these things that maybe, oh, this is good or this is bad, or we shouldn't do this because that might not keep us safe, keeps us in the patterns. As humans are pattern making creatures. We find comfort in doing the same thing over and over again, even though it can become monotonous. So that's also why I say pay attention to patterns in your life. But all is mental. What I've come to believe this to be is that everything that happens in that mind, because most of us, that mind, until we start to learn that we're not our minds, we are consciousness, is very busy. It's very active. It takes us, it rebuilds events that happened to us in the past, takes us back to the past, which we can't control, by the way. The past has already happened. It's only how we hold on to it right here, right now. And really, it's the mind holding on to it. Or it takes us into the future, to future events. So, when I was in program management, I was always thinking like years sometimes into the future. And, that was also with my personal goals too. But, speaking to really anybody who has a future thinking job or has future goals, you're not here, right now. You're in, you're far off somewhere else, or, in the future or in the past. And so just take a moment and think about, there's that thinking again, we need the minds. But think about how often you're really here mentally. Physically, we're moving through life, but how often is your mind, is your consciousness here with your body? Unless you start to practice, most of us are not really here very much. I wasn't. Now I'm much more present. And so all is mental. Because it's all about also our perception. We have an issue with what happened in the past, life, that what we perceive as trauma, because of how we are perceiving it. And we can only control our perception. That's another thing I learned, is that you can't control anything outside of you. And what I tell people is that when you have a life experience that maybe you don't agree with, and then your mind catches on it, fixates on it, and you can't get past that. Why can't you get past that? What happened in your past? What pattern in your past has made you not want to let go of this thing? Because I spoke in the last video that our minds are more easily addicted to negativity. So we have this negative experience, or what we perceive as a negative experience, because really, I've also come to view that everything that happens to us is a learning experience. It's a test. So when you have life that happens and you can't get past that experience, you start to loop. You start to go in a cycle, and then you get caught up in a negative cycle. This can happen to positive, but for me, I love positive experiences. So I'm just going to show, so know that it can be reflected in the positive as well. But for those of you that are trying to get out of the negative cycle, first off is recognizing that you're caught in that negative cycle. But where is the negativity coming from? It's from your mental perception. you're perceiving as what's happening to you as a negative, whether that's through anger, guilt, grief, what we know, those lower vibrations, you're perceiving that. And I put a post on about emotions, about Kirtas, the sacral energy center, this week as well. And this is end of March. It's totally normal. We are humans. We are supposed to process emotions. It's a part of being a human being. The key is to not get swept away and to create a domino effect. So this experience happens. Then you have an emotion. And that emotion comes with it mental patterns that you've learned from the past. So that happens. You have the emotional response, which is much more powerful programming when you couple not just words or song or whatever, but there's that emotional response. So then you have this thing, you have the emotional response, you have all of the programming that comes from the past that's mentally associated with it. So you have physical and you have a mental response. And key point is still, it's your perception of the past that's affecting you in that current experience. So this thing happens, and now you start to have a negative outlook. And then, because the universe doesn't speak in words, sorry, cats. The universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in vibration, it speaks in energy. Look up quantum physics, everything is energy. And so if you're energetically putting off negative stuff, negative emotions, the universe is thinking, oh, this is what this person's putting off, so this is what I should give more of it to. It's going to bring more of those experiences to you. And you'll notice this when you get into a negative mindset, it's like a domino effect. And the dominoes will keep falling. And this is when you can be stuck in something for years, like years, or months, days, weeks, hours. But when you start to become aware that this is your mind, this is the mental landscape entrenching you into this pattern, the awareness is key, because once you get to that point of awareness, you can be like, oh, I'm in a loop. And then you can start to break out of it, because that is your consciousness recognizing that, oh, I'm in a negative loop. And maybe you start to realize where that emotional, mental response is coming from in the first place, like where in your childhood or where in years past, what caused you to react that way when those experiences, that experience, whatever it was, happens to you? Because things are happening in patterns to you, I can guarantee it. And you'll start to notice that too. We love patterns, good and bad. So all is mental, because a lot of what's happening up here is also what's happening out here in the physical reality. Because if you're mentally, is your mental mind and how the consciousness you perceive the mental mind is what's putting off your vibration out into the universe. Let me know if you have questions. Just comment. I've been studying this like pretty consistently and deeply now for probably about 6 years. And there's a lot to unpack. But, that just, hopefully it brings some of it together if you've been watching the energy work shorts, because I do really call attention to the mind. And the more that you can understand the mind and become aware of it, the more in control you'll become, or the more you'll realize how out of control of your life you are. Have a great day. Ponder.